One example of energy is rain falling because of gravity and eroding a hillside. Another is adrenaline, releasing sugar into your bloodstream to be used as fuel by your cells to give your brain and body a boost. Nonetheless, many people persist in thinking of energy as something like a brick. If you have a brick and you hand it to someone else, now he has a brick and you don't. But energy isn't like a brick at all. Energy is much more like an ocean wave that gets its energy from the wind, which gets its energy from something else, and so on. Where there is energy, there is movement or change. And where there is movement or change, there is energy. Because everything is apparently moving or changing, it's easy to see everything as a potential source of energy. Also, this movement seems to be in the form of waves. As humans, we experience life primarily through sight, sound, and touch. To see, hear, and feel, there has to be a particular kind of phenomenon existing at a particular range of frequencies that can be perceived by specially organized receptors. In other words, seeing, hearing, and feeling require a nervous system that can process information received by the eyes, ears, and skin. That information reaches those receptors in the form of light waves, sound waves, and vibration. Of course, it's more involved than that, but those are the basics. If energy is movement, and matter is moving, then matter is energy. If movement occurs in waves, then what we perceive as matter consists of different kinds of waves. And if one kind of wave can influence the behavior of another kind of wave, as wind influences water, or fire influences wind, and if humans can find a way in which they themselves can generate waves that will influence the behavior of other waves, why then maybe they can use that ability for instant healing. I'm going to use those assumptions as a starting point for the discussion of this topic. Where do waves come from? Waves are started by other waves. If you've ever watched a field of grain or grass being buffeted by the wind, you may have noticed how the pressure of the wind rolls across the field in waves, not as one solid flattening effect. That's because wind moves in waves. Earthquakes move in waves. Sunlight moves in waves. According to our assumptions, everything moves in waves, and waves make waves. Earlier, I discussed how stress produces tension that interferes with healing. Stress was defined as resulting from mutual forces working against each other. In terms of energy, I would say that the tension of stress comes from two waves colliding. If you can use another wave to redirect or modify one of the colliding waves, then the natural process of healing can take place. And the more quickly you can do that, the more instant the healing will be. For practical purposes, I'll consider three sources of energy that can be used for instant healing: physical, emotional, and mental. We will first direct our attention to physical energy. There are a myriad number of ways in which physical energy can be employed for healing purposes. I'll concentrate on a few very useful, specific methods, rather than provide an exhaustive survey of all the possibilities. First, water. Yes, I know that practically everyone is aware of the importance of drinking more water to avoid dehydration, and bottled water is available almost everywhere. On a recent trip to China, I had no trouble finding bottled water at a market stall in every town I visited, and even some airlines make sure their passengers are supplied with plenty of water. It's easy to forget that this is a very new phenomenon. However, in my classes and courses, I've found that many people, including those who bring their bottles of water to class, still aren't aware of some of the instant healing benefits of water. When the body gets dehydrated, it goes into a state of stress, and the resulting tension can produce symptoms that may not seem to be associated with a lack of water. One of the things I discovered on my own was that if I wake up in the morning with aches and pains, a glass or two of water will almost always make them disappear, as if by magic. The effect seems to take place much faster than the time it would take for the water to get from my stomach to the cells that might need it. If I were to assume that the water acts like a wave of energy, then I could say that the water energy moves one or both of the colliding stress waves, and the release of tension allows the body to heal itself. A physiologist might throw fits at such a theory, but it doesn't hurt to play with ideas. The fact of the matter is that it works. In addition to morning aches and pains, I've found that a glass or two of water will often produce instant benefits for backache, headache, joint pain, nausea, cold or flu-like symptoms, and anxiety. Another healing characteristic of water is its ability to neutralize a positive electric field. Under certain conditions, a static electric field can build up on and around the body and cause considerable stress. This can happen during dry winds, such as the Santa Anas of California and the Konas of Hawaii. It can also happen when winds blow through natural canyons or the concrete canyons of a city, and when air blows through air conditioning ducts in buildings, planes, and cars. Such fields may build up as well during a high-pressure weather system when the air doesn't seem to be moving at all. Although a positive electric field may build up around the body as a whole, it tends to concentrate wherever there is metal in contact with the skin, or where there are rings, necklaces, bracelets, watches, and the like. The electric field may cause you to feel some of the symptoms I mentioned, such as headache or nausea. Taking a shower or bath, wiping the skin with a damp cloth, or touching with a wet finger the metal that is in contact with your body are all good ways of discharging the field and producing an instant feeling of relief. Breath. Yeah, sure, it's important to breathe, and of course it's important to breathe. So important that a lot of different cultures have developed special breathing exercises that are supposed to make you healthy, wealthy, wise, and full of superpowers. Over the years, I have experimented with quite a few styles of breathing, some very exotic. By my analysis, all of the benefits of every style can be derived from one master technique, and that is deeper breathing. Breathing occurs in waves. In addition to the cycle of inhaling and exhaling, there's a wave pulse that goes up and down the torso when you breathe, sometimes in sync with the breathing and sometimes not. The primary benefit of breathing is the provision of oxygen to your cells, and a major secondary benefit is the fact that breathing acts as a pump for your lymph system, helping to eliminate toxins from your body. If the breath waves are small, that is, if your breathing is shallow, you take in less oxygen and get rid of fewer toxins. This makes you more susceptible to illness, lowers your pain threshold, reduces your physical strength, and fogs your brain. Deeper breathing helps to change all that. The problem, naturally, is that under stress we all tend toward shallow breathing, and for many people, shallow breathing becomes a habit. Deeper breathing often requires conscious effort. It might be a good idea to train yourself to remember to breathe more deeply whenever you feel under stress, as a kind of self-help first aid technique. Instead of a sign saying think above your desk, put one that says breathe. In addition to just plain deeper breathing, there is one breathing exercise that I have found to be extremely useful. Some yogic techniques emphasize holding the breath at one or both ends of the cycle for a certain number of counts. So you would inhale and hold for 4 counts, and exhale and hold for 4 counts or more. According to my research, there's a valuable physiological benefit to this, at least at the inhalation end. In simple terms, when you hold your breath for a few moments at the top of the inhale, there is a mixing of oxygen and carbon dioxide, which enables more oxygen to be absorbed by the red blood cells. The instant healing benefit of this is more energy, faster pain relief, and clearer thinking. In my experience, holding the breath for 3 or 4 counts is sufficient for the effect to be felt. However, it does usually take more than one breathing cycle. Strange waves. I had a really hard time figuring out how to present this idea. Although some of the concepts I've presented are rather unorthodox, I wanted to keep the techniques as practical and understandable as possible without sounding esoteric or too far out. What I'm about to describe is so practical, however, that I'm going to risk sounding weird to those unfamiliar with subtle energy research. To keep it simple, not all forms of energy are understood or even acknowledged by mainstream science, or by anyone for that matter. Even things that are not understood, however, can be put to practical use, as long as their effects can be shown to be beneficial. What follows are some simple ways of using a source of energy for healing that, according to conventional knowledge, doesn't seem to make any sense. These ways have been experimented with and experienced by thousands of people all over the world with good results. Those who would like more background can read my book, Earth Energies. Otherwise, you can just try them out for yourself. Theoretically, the 2 devices I'll describe generate waves that tend to relieve tension and thus assist the natural healing process of the body. First, the wave pad. Take 1 square foot of aluminum foil and cover it with 1 square foot of plastic cling wrap. Now fold it over several times to make a square or rectangular pad suitable for placing on a part of your body where you are suffering discomfort. It doesn't matter whether the foil is on the inside or the outside. You can attach it with tape or any other way you choose and leave it in place until you get relief. This is particularly good for helping aches, pains, bruises, and nausea, and for helping to speed up healing of any kind. Second, the wave plate. Cut 2 6-inch squares of acrylic or styrene plastic and 1 6-inch square of aluminum foil. Sandwich the foil between the plastic and tape the plastic pieces together. Use this plate as a coaster for water and other liquids. Allow about 30 seconds for the liquid to be charged with energy. Drinking the energized liquid will provide a subtly beneficial effect for your whole body, helping to keep tension levels down, and the energized water can be used topically on the skin. Many people will notice that coffee, tea, or young wine will have a more mellow taste after sitting on the wave plate for a while. You can also expand the size of the wave plate to 12 inches square and use it as a footpad at your desk or in front of the TV or by your bed. Many people will immediately feel an invigorating effect within a minute or 2 of resting their feet on the plate, whether they are sitting or standing. Emotional energy. Now, the same people who think of energy as bricks tend to think of emotions as chicken feathers. Good emotions mean you are full of soft, dry feathers that give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. Bad emotions mean that you're filled with damp, lumpy feathers that give you an unpleasant feeling. By this reasoning, if you feel bad and you want to feel good, you have to take out the wet feathers, the bad emotions, and replace them with dry feathers, or good emotions. As a theory about emotions, it doesn't work very well, because an emotion isn't a thing any more than energy is. If you gain any healing benefits from expressing anger, grief, sadness, or whatever, it isn't because you've gotten rid of anything, it's because you've changed behavior and started energy moving and have released tension that came from trying not to feel the emotion. The potential for the same emotion to reoccur is still there, unless you change your relationship to the memory that triggered it. However, immediate healing benefits can come from moving directly into a positive emotion without even bothering to release the negative one. At a conference in Colorado, I attended an evening discussion on how to be happy that was given by a young Frenchman. His message was deceptively simple. If you want to be happy, just be happy. Most of the evening's discussion went like this, in a question-and-answer format. Question: how can I be happy if I lost my job? Answer: be happy. Question: how can I be happy if I'm all alone? Answer: be happy. Question: how can I be happy if I'm sick? Answer: be happy. A lot of people left the discussion just shaking their heads. They couldn't grasp the idea that happiness is a choice. It comes from dwelling on what you like rather than on what you don't like. Outside events or the behavior of other people are not what make you unhappy. Unhappiness derives from actively or passively resisting events and behaviors. Resistance creates tension, and enough tension creates or amplifies illness. Happiness and other positive emotions relieve tension and support the body's natural healing abilities. The theory sounds good, but what about the practice? It's one thing to tell someone to be happy, and quite another for a person to be able to do it. It's like advising someone to be well when he's sick. Without a way to do it, the advice is empty. Let me show you some ways to generate positive emotional states to help your healing. If you're in a bad emotional state, you won't feel like using them. So it might be helpful to think of them as emotional medicine that you take if you want to get well. Favorite focus. If you are hurting, physically or emotionally, it really does help you feel better to think of your favorite things, whether they're brown paper packages tied up with string or anything else. It does much more than just distract you. It relaxes muscles, releases endorphins, and stimulates a lot of other good healing stuff. The catch is, you really have to take the time to do it. Take at least a minute, anytime or anywhere, to fill your mind with memories or imaginings of things you like. For healing purposes, the more time you spend on it, the better. But try it in 1-minute chunks to start, at least. Love power. Some years ago, my organization received an unsolicited box full of red, pin-back metal buttons with the words, "I am loved," written on them. With them was a story about a man whose wife was critically ill in a hospital. On one visit, he told her, "Just remember, you are loved." When he left, she took that idea and dwelt on it as much as she could, especially when fears came up. According to the story, her recovery was fast and was called miraculous. We were asked to distribute the pins in the hope that they might help other people, which we did. And they did. Since then, I've used this idea on myself and taught it to others with extremely good results. Because it isn't easy for many people to just start thinking that way, here's an approach I developed to make it easier. Take a good look at your present life, including your immediate environment and the significant people in your life. Then, carefully note everything you can that provides you with any kind of benefit. Finally, interpret that benefit as a sign that you are loved by the source of it. Assume that the fragrance of a flower is a gift of love. Assume that the air you breathe is a gift of love. Assume that all the things that people do for you, from the strangers who provide electricity for you, to the help of friends and family, and all the good that the universe provides, are signs that you are loved. To the degree that you can make the signs of love more important than any other assumptions about your world, you'll experience a remarkable increase in healing. Positive posture. Recently, I was on an extended trip that was physically exhausting and mentally stressful. After 2 weeks, I began to come down with cold symptoms such as nasal drip, stuffed sinuses, and sneezing. Because of past experience, I knew that these were stress symptoms and not a bug. Of all the techniques I used to relieve the stress, the most instant relief came from shifting into a feeling state of confidence. It was not a matter of feeling confident about any particular thing, it was simply a confident feeling in general.